Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the third of our three lives with some awesome artists. We have been talking to Rebecca from Maywild Studio, Nick, who is a BBC and other broadcasting researcher. And TV researcher, and now we're going to talk to George. Let me just add him in. Hopefully George will join us in a second. Welcome to those who have joined us on the live. Welcome. So we are doing these lives as part of our Creative Industries Insights program, which is a program for neurodivergent young people aged 16 to 25 in Greater Manchester. And we are interviewing artists to ask them really how they got into the industry that they work in, what inspired them, what was it that kind of helped them get into that industry. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm just going to see if I can add George in again. Technical difficulties are all part of the lives. So hello, hi, how's
Hi,
you? You okay?
I'm good. Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
I was a bit worried I was not going to get on there because I've never done an Instagram live before, but this is exciting. So, hello.
Hello. This is my third, and the last two were an hour and 2 hours ago. So I am as green as you when it comes to Instagram lives, but I'm moving with the times. We're moving with the times.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just in my little makeshift studio where I teach dance and keep as a little wardrobe.
Very nice. Very nice. I'm squeezed up against my living room wall, so you can't see any of the chaos that's over this side.
Yeah, yeah. Blank walls are good, aren't they, when you're doing things online, I find.
Yeah, definitely. So I was just explaining before you joined that we're running a program which is for neurodivergent young people in Greater Manchester, and it's about insights into the creative industries. So we've got a lot of young people who are interested to hear from different artists and creative professionals, how they got into their industry, and kind of tips and advice about, if you want to start out in something creative, like how you get into it. So yesterday we did a session with the group, and they came up with lots of questions that they would like to ask you. So I'm gonna fire away if that's okay.
Go ahead, I'll try and answer them the best I can.
No worries. Hello again to Amelia, who's just joined us. If you do have any questions, those people who are watching now, you can put them into the comment section. And then this is also going to be recorded, so it will be on our Instagram, so people can watch it back if they can't join us right now. So yeah, the first question really is about yourself and your career and what you actually do. So introduce kind of a little bit more about you and the company that you run.
I work as a dancer mainly, in dance and performance, sometimes theatre. Well, it's always usually in a theatre. Sometimes it's outside. It could be anywhere really. The good thing about dance is that it's kind of it's transferable because it's people, moving in space. So I tend to work wherever, whoever will have me as a dancer. A lot of the time in studios with other dancers and in theatres, and like I say, I started. company up about 10 years ago with a friend of mine, called LPM in Lancashire. And we work with all different types of people, young babies all the way up to older people. Um, and we work a lot with people considered as having a disability. Um, and also we make shows, and travel about and perform shows at festivals and things like that. And I really like to have the audience in my shows. So if you come and see a show, usually I try to kind of bring the audience into it in some kind of way. So I'm very much into participation. Um, yeah, and Helen Gold is the other dancer that works. We're artist led, so we try to follow what artists need and what the community needs as well. Yeah, so I guess that's a bit about that question. Is that a good enough answer?
Oh yeah,
I hope so.
fantastic.
I'm not sure what a good answer is these days.
There, there's no right or wrong answer.
It's a bit funny talking about yourself sometimes, I think, isn't it? But you have to get used to it. I guess that's something you should think about, is getting used to talk about yourself in the arts. That's something that's good.
You have to be your own champion, don't you, if you were in the arts and creative industries, for sure.
Yes, you have to shout a little bit louder sometimes.
Yeah,
Look at me.
exactly. And it does seem feels uncomfortable sometimes, doesn't it, to shout about who you are and what you do, but it can make all the difference if you can push yourself to do that. So very much
Exactly.
appreciated, and we want to hear what you have to say, so we're all ears. Yeah, so our group of young people were really keen to hear about kind of your early interest in your creative industry or your creative passions. So they are asking, like, what inspired you when you were younger? How did that spark your journey, I guess, in the creative industries?
Well, I might start when I was a wee boy in the east end of Glasgow, in quite an impoverished area at the time in the 80s. And there was a church, an old kind of broken down church across the road from where I lived, and I used to go and play in the churchyard with my friends on this like housing estate called Easter House in Glasgow. And it was 1990, and I believe, or just before 1990, maybe 1989. And so I was a young boy. I was like, I don't know, 7 or 6 or so. And a drama club came to or some outreach project, as we would call it in the arts, I guess. An outreach project came to this area which I lived in, and we did drama workshops on a Thursday, and we did improvisation, and we did physical games. And I was always a very physical person. I really like to be involved, physically with my body. Um, and it was great. And I remember someone coming and making puppets out of egg boxes, and we did a little puppet show, and we did all sorts of things. And someone in that ended up getting some funding, and I ended up performing in a show which toured around Glasgow when I was about 7 years old in the 1990. And it was called Damp Busters, and it was about the poor housing conditions in the area of Glasgow that I lived. And I played a young boy who had asthma in that, and it was my first kind of time on stage. And I remember I had to drop a plate of spaghetti, and I would only have this small scene, and I would try to do it as dramatic as possible, and trying to steal the limelight then as a young man, I think. So that introduced me to the arts, I think. um, when I was younger. And from then, someone had said, I think, to my mother, "Oh, I think you should go and do some drama, and I did go away and do some drama after that." And it was later on, when I was about 16 or 17, that I said, "Do you know I said, oh, I really love dancing," and I met this wonderful dance teacher, and I decided to go and do a little bit of theatre in college after I left school. And we just got on so well, and then I realised that actually dance was for me, and so I still work and still like to speak and do a bit of acting, but it was dance. And then from that, I went on this kind of dance training journey where I worked really hard and trained a lot in different schools. You know, I went to one school for a couple of years and then tried to get money to get to another school and then tried to get a scholarship to get into this school. And I ended up doing about 6 years of dance education full time, which was intense, but I needed it. You know, I needed it. So yeah, that I guess that's where I was inspired and where it came from. And inspiration is a funny word, isn't it? Because it kind of means to, well, it comes from to intake, doesn't it? Like to take a breath. And I think inspiration comes and goes, you know, like flows in different times in your different life. It's hard sometimes to be inspired when the environment around you isn't inspiring, let's say, or you don't have people around you who maybe want to give you a boost. Or so I think for me, inspiration, you know, comes and goes, and I really think that I find it in people and music as well, and trying to express myself in a different way, which is not just speaking or writing. And I find that really inspiring, you know. And obviously in dance we get a lot of music, don't we? So that when you share everyone knows what it's like to hear something, you know, that really sends tingles through your body, and then to express that in some way is really exciting. So yeah, lots of things inspire me. Nature inspires me as well.
It's so interesting to hear you know, it starts so young, doesn't it? You don't expect it to be that case sometimes, but it just seems like a calling sometimes, like it makes sense.
I remember my mum taking me to the theatre in the King's in Glasgow when I was just a little boy, and the first time I'd ever been to the theatre, you know. And I stood on the theatre steps at the King's. Later on, I performed there actually when I was when I was about 18 or 19 again, and I didn't put two and two together. I remember standing there and seeing the Snow Queen or George's Marvelous Medicine, I think it was, in the big, you know, at the front, and these kind of really old-fashioned marble stairs in the theatre. And I remember looking at it thinking, I just want to be there. I just love it, you know. And then watching on stage, mum, I can't remember much my mum said that. I was like that, you know, watching this kind of pantomime thing on stage. Like, can people go up and do that? Is that allowed?
That's a real job. Amazing. So the young people were keen to find out about kind of the decision to start your own organization and how you came about, how that came about. What did it take to create it? You know, how do you maintain it? These kinds of questions, like practical things, I guess.
For me, when I was always I've always been a little bit of a rebel, I think. And, I like to kind of sometimes push the boundaries a wee bit, you know. Maybe in the past when I was a bit younger, maybe not so in such constructive ways. But as I've got older, I've realised that that can be a really nice thing, you know, it can be a really beautiful thing to just push boundaries a wee bit. Um, and I think when I was performing in as a dancer for companies that have repertoire, let's say, you have to learn a piece of oh my glasses, you have to learn a piece of repertoire and do exactly as you've been told to do, and it's very disciplined dance. And I remember, you know, in some ways bowing down to that discipline and saying, do it exactly how, you know, the best of your ability to do that. But I always felt that I was always, that there was a bit of a soloist there, or I wanted to kind of make my own work or have my own say in what the choreography was. And actually, when I was dancing in Wales for, well, it's the National Dance Company of Wales now, I think, but it used to be called Diversions, and I just got a little European grant to be there as a new dancer. I was only there for maybe 3 months, and one of the choreographers said to me, we had this training, and we had to learn about, you know, what it was like to be self-employed, and what if we did want to open a company. And we got about, you know, 10 hours training with this lovely woman who was investing in us in the arts. And I remember him saying, I really think, George, you'd be good at, you know, at having your own company, because you're always the first one to say you think it should be like this, or you think it should be like that. Yeah, And also my friend Helen, who opened the company, we opened the company together. You know, I have dyslexia myself, and I'm not a big fan often of writing applications or finding funding or going on the computer or even like you might have experienced earlier, sometimes advocating myself. I find sometimes it to be the least exciting part of the job. But I think if you've got someone there to support you, you know, who has the same vision and same dream, it's really beneficial. And I would say, for my advice, if you want to start a company or an organization together, is bring people around you who believe in your ideas and who believe in you, and actually understand your weaknesses as well, and can support you in that. And then you'll find something that supports them as well. Um, so I think a sense of community and a sense of being in it with the right people. And if you can't find the right people to have the company with, then working with the right people, like working with people who appreciate it, for me is important. And I guess that's what would be, if I could give some advice, would be that.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Um, Miranda's just joined and she's asked who inspired you? Is there any particular
Do
person or
you
uh,
know what? I was thinking about that question
hmm,
because my partner was like, "What if they ask you who inspires you? What are you going to say?" And I was like, I'm like, "Oh, I don't know," because um, I can't really say that any one particular person did inspire me, but I think I always kept my eyes open when I seen when like let's go back to kind of college, let's say, and we'd have to do solos, you know, dance solos, and then we'd get separated sometimes, and the men would dance these solos, and the women would dance other solos, and we'd go up and we'd watch, you know, someone do their solo, and then we'd clap, and then get corrections, and go away, and then you'd go up and do yours. And my teacher used to say to me, you know, really watch everybody and find what you love about what their performance is like, and you know, maybe what's not doesn't resonate with you. And I can really say that other dancers really inspired me, you know, watching them and saying like, oh, I love the way they interpreted that, you know. Not necessarily any kind of famous people, but more like everyday people sometimes inspire me, you know. When I see the strength that people have sometimes in repeating the same thing over and over again, but they've got like a love for it, I find that inspirational. Um, I think if I was to look, I like look at maybe something more academic, and then I find Rudolf Laban's work quite inspirational. It can be a bit dry sometimes, but I quite liked where he went with things and bringing movement and dance not just as an art form, but within education or within the workplace, and he kind of and writing a dance language and using dance in a way where it's everybody's got a body and we can all bring dance into our lives in lots of different areas. I find that inspiring, because then it's not just about watching someone on stage. Look at me, dancing. But it's more about, how everybody can
yeah.
be involved in some kind of movement. And I find that inspiring. And I think Laban and some of the kind of luminaries in the past really tried to push for that.
Definitely. I think a lot of young people that we kind of interact with at the moment are really inspired by TikTok, because TikTok is a
Ah,
place
TikTok.
where you can have you can share your dance with other people and kind of be part of a community of dancers. And I think that that's been really beneficial for people to see little snippets of creativity, and that goes all around the world. And although it's a totally different kind of setup to your experience of being in your training environment with lots of different people dancing, it's a similar kind of thing. It's like sharing that the dance that everybody can do, that everybody, and then individually everybody does it slightly different. So I think that's something that young people enjoy, and especially with kind of popular culture and different artists and musicians, and the dance that comes out of that as well is often really well received and inspiring for them. So it's really interesting to hear how you're inspired as well. Um, another question, which I think it was my favorite question out of all the questions that we had for our artists, was how do you get so bendy? Because we watched your video, your trailer for, is it Oracle? Is that your show called? Is it called Oracle?
Oh yeah, no, that's the one of the recent ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
doing Oracle and Hotel for another. Yeah, another one. Well, the other two shows. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were watching that, and there are oh, and the image of you kind of bent backwards is quite a famous one, I guess, that's used quite a lot. And they were asking, how do you get so bendy? How much training do you have to do to get to that stage of flexibility?
Well, you know, I think I train a lot of dancers actually, like a lot. I say a lot of dancers, not a lot, but I do training with dancers. And you'll often see, you know, how long, you know, when will I achieve, you know, this, and this? Because obviously, you know, we want to be able to like put our leg really high or jump into a lovely big split. And my answer is always like it's a lifetime practice. And so, and also that some people's bodies, everybody's bodies are different. So you might be a really good back bender, you know, eventually if you train enough. Or you might be really good at splits or forward bends, or you might be a lovely turner. You know, you might be able to do lots of spins and things, or you might be a very high jumper.
Mm.
It's very difficult to determine exactly when, but with flexibility, I think it is a lifetime practice. You know, I think if you involve stretching in your life um, and fitness into your life, then your body will start to react to that, and you'll start to find um, the aesthetics of that. You know, like going to the gym or anything else. So I do a lot of yoga, I would say. I do a lot of Pilates.
Mhm.
Um, and I did gymnastics when I was a little boy for like about maybe like a year or so.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'd say that the yoga keeps me quite loose,
Mhm.
and Pilates and things like that.
Mhm.
But I would say just a little bit of practice each day, you know. It sounds like a lot when you say to someone, "Oh, can you do an hour a day?" And people to take an hour of day out of their life sometimes, oh, it's an hour, but you have got 24, and an hour of a day spent on just even if it's just sitting in a posture or breathing or just some gentle stretches will make a big difference, you know, to how you are. But I guess I've been a bit lucky as well that my my body's been able to do that because we're also born with all different bodies as well, aren't we?
Mhm.
And you know, when we're born with different, and that determines often the aesthetic as well. But that doesn't mean to say that you know that it's one is any better than the other. It's just that sometimes pictures can look more impressive, can't they, when you've got these beautiful kind of big bends and things.
Mm.
Um,
Wow. We have had some questions on the chat, on the comment section. One is about the future. So the future of your work, what you're going to do next, maybe plans for the future.
so I actually gave up dancing. Gave up dancing. Well, still working in dance, but thought I'd retired from performing about uh, 3, 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And then I decided, oh, do you know what? I'm gonna go back and audition, and I'm gonna try it, you know, and I'm gonna put myself back in my own show and things like that. And I did, and I've been really enjoying it, and I've been finding the challenge really great, and it's nice to come back. So I think I'm more ambitious about the future. I'd like to do a bit more acting. I'd like to be in something that kind of I can speak and I can move as well, and I can you know play a character. I like playing quite vulnerable characters, um, quite pained characters. I enjoy, um, and I'd like to get Oracle off again because I'd only had time to work on this show, the Oracle show, for 3 weeks. Because of certain things, and I'd like to get that up and going and to tour the when we're allowed. Hopefully, music festivals will be back, and I'd like to tour some music festivals. Maybe get a few more gigs in the theatre. I would like my company to have a bit more funding. from from somewhere, because we didn't do very well in the last rounds of funding or getting the emergency funding. So we have got we have got ambitions, should I say, for the company to find more funding so that we can reach more people, vulnerable people that we work with, like our Parkinson's groups and people with a disability. There's also, I made up a little choreographic card system for people who've never had any dance training to choreograph. And it's just a very easy card kind of game system. And I would like to get that off the ground. I'd like to work with an artist who could help to design the cards properly and just try it a bit more and maybe create that little card system which allows people kind of a little access to create dances. So I've got quite a few things. I'm not short of ideas really usually, but I think yeah, I've become a bit more ambitious, particularly when we've all been locked in our houses, you know, and we all feel I I can't speak for everyone, but it's tough, you know, I think to recognize that this is a big transition and it's a big moment of uncertainty for lots of us.
Mm.
And to try and come out of this time with a refreshed sense of being and hope.
Mm.
So
Definitely. Another question on the chat is, what are some of your choreographic approaches?
ooh, very technical choreographic approaches now.
Can you break that down what that might mean? Choreographic approaches, for someone who's not a dancer, that sounds very complicated. What does that mean?
Yes, it's the word. I think the word choreography is quite a mouthful as well, isn't it? So, I guess with choreographic approaches, we're looking at making dances, aren't we? So choreography is the making movement or dances. Um, and my approach, if I think about it, it's different each time, I would say, a little bit different each time. I like to use improvisation, so I like to try and, if I'm working with a dancer, I like to see how that dancer likes to move, and what they feel comfortable in how they feel comfortable in moving, and giving them, let's say, tasks to move in a particular way, and then I like to watch that and then see if I can um, bring that to the work, so enhance their movement or even sometimes challenge them to move in a way they wouldn't normally move in terms of the architecture of the choreography. And I also like to work in choreography with contact, which is obviously something we've not been able to do for a while, but I like partner work, where people are touching and moving around each other and lifting. Um, I like it to seem real, like real people on stage sometimes. So I often like to mix gesture with maybe more virtuosic big movement. I like when dancers use their eyes, you know, and really look at each other in the space. I use a lot. I sometimes if I'm using, I use terminology like Laban terminology. So I might notice that the dance is very heavy on one side or has lots of unison, and then I'll try to kind of think, well, maybe I might need to put something that's not unison in there. Maybe I might. There's no jumping, so maybe it might be nice to put things at a higher level and just try and give a varied approach to what we're watching as well, because like TikTok or dance that you see on the telly, you know, often you see dance on the telly, don't you, or um, on a screen. These dances are very short, maybe 2 minutes, 30 seconds, but often dances that I'll be making will be half an hour, 1 hour long. So it's a bit different in terms of how you might approach that to a 30-second, you know, grab the attention now, you know, of everything doing something fancy and all in unison. Um, and that's something I think is quite interesting to remember, is that we do get a lot of our information now in a very quick bite. And you know, when you go to the theatre and watch a play, you know, I watched some Shakespeare, you know, the last year, And I was sitting in this big, beautiful open theatre. I was sitting there. I mean, I'm not a massive. I like Shakespeare, but I sometimes don't know what's going on. I'll probably like most of us. And I wasn't familiar with the play, but I sat there for 3.5 hours outside, and I thought at some points I thought, oh, my back's sore and this is a bit achy. But there's something about the experience of being in it for longer, which is a pleasure, I think. If sometimes not, it can be a bit boring. I don't want to say boring, but I guess you have to kind of learn to be in it a bit more.
Yeah.
I don't know why that got me onto my choreographic approach, but yeah, it's something to do with that.
Yeah, it's I think those of us who love the theatre, like myself, really missed kind of getting lost in the atmosphere. Sometimes you don't even listen to what's actually being said on stage. It's something else that you're fascinated by, like the props or how they've managed to do the lighting like that, or things like that. So I
They've
definitely,
got an amazing feel to them, don't they?
yeah.
Some of them, they've got, and there's the lighting, and there's the tech people to consider, and there's the like what the performers are having for their lunch, and in dance as well. There's a lot of like preparation in terms of getting our bodies, in the right place. So we'll often do 2 hours of dance to warm up and get ourselves right, and then do an hour or 2 hours of rehearsals
Mm.
before we've even got on stage, or while we're on stage. So there's a whole process which is lovely about having the pleasure to be in that, because lots of people don't get to experience that. But that's really nice. I hope that answered a bit about the choreographic approach.
I think it's very interesting to hear how you look at the way that you work and things. It's very, very interesting. We're coming to the end now, but we had a question about, because our organisation supports young people, neurodivergent young people, and we really try and champion different ways of being, thinking, experiencing the world and living in the world. We just wondered about your own neurodiversity and how it impacts you in your life and your work, and how it might interweave with all of these things we've talked about.
Yes, I think the like when we've spoken before, we've mentioned this umbrella term of neurodiversity. People thinking in a different way, or people experiencing reality in a different way. And actually, I'm of the belief that every one of us is experiencing our reality individually anyway, aren't we? And we're taking that perception of how we're acting and what we're doing in the environment through our senses, through our smell, through our through sound, through taste and sight and color, and all these multitude of senses which are fascinating and desirable. Um, and I guess it's taken me a little while to yoga helped me with that, and dance has really helped me with that, to find a discipline where I realize that we're all experiencing the world, um, and some of us can express that in a particular way, and some of us express it in a different way, and some of us are through movement, or through singing, or through painting, um, and or writing, or however you wish. And I believe that the education system is wonderful, but sometimes doesn't hold everyone in the way that it could, because they're busy trying to teach a particular subject. But actually living through your environment, living through your senses is all we can do. And I think that's taught me a lot about my dyslexia, a lot about, maybe other diagnoses that I could be given, and a lot about mental health and psychology. Um, so I guess what from my perspective is, if I was to kind of to make it shorter, is that everything that we're each individually experiencing in a way is kind of divine, is is okay, is what it is wonderful. And if you can feel comfortable in that and take autonomy in that and go, okay, and I would like to add some more or take some away, or I actually don't need to be in this situation right now for a moment and come back, then that's fine. So it's about acceptance. I feel that accepting that everybody is different, right?
Definitely.
So,
I think acceptance is definitely a word. A lot of there's a lot of emphasis put on awareness, knowing about these things, but I think acceptance is a very important next step, because it means that it will allow everybody to be who they want to be and who they need to be. So I think that's definitely a good way to wrap it up and to yeah, complete this conversation. I think it was really wonderful. Thank you so much.
oh, thanks for having me. It's been great just to babble on like I like to do anyway. So, and thanks for your questions. And I hope everyone, all the young people that you've been working with, well, I imagine they're getting a lot out of it. And I really advocate the work that you guys are doing. So, thank you.
Thank you. And if anyone, we're going to obviously put this on our Instagram. So if anybody is interested in your work, what's your website and all of your kind of social media? Can you tell us those, and then they can follow?
Yes, so the company that I spoke about is called LPM Dance, and I think you'll find it www.lpmdance.com is the website, and I think our emails are on there. It should be if you want to email me, I'm happy to answer any emails. My social media is my own. Happy to speak to anybody on that if they need anything as well. That's just my name, George. I think it's George Alexander. I've put on social media. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think I'm quite easy to find, hopefully. I'm sure you could pass on any emails or anybody who's interested in doing it. I'm happy with that as well. So.
Definitely. Well, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, and we will surely talk to you soon.
Nice to see you again.
See you later.
Ciao. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye.